Hello Guardians, it is Ebontis, and in this video I just kind of want to give you guys a heads up as to the weapon coming from Nightfalls this week. Now, if you run the hero version, which is match made, it's the only option you're going to be able to do that on, your chances of getting the Nightfall are pretty low. I've run a few, and you're probably going to have to run a lot to see when to drop, so if you really are looking to farm this weapon, Legend, Master, if you can do some of those, honestly, but if you get a group together, you may as well just do the Nightfall. You're damn near guaranteed, you're going to get some shards, ciphers, that kind of stuff. Now, this week it is going to be Fallen Saber. I know there are groups that can farm the ever-living crap out of this thing, so it's definitely one that's farmable. And the main reason is the drop this week. And it's a weapon that we've got back, but we've got a new perk. Now, Loaded Question in and of itself may not be the most appealing fusion... excuse me. May not be the most appealing fusion rifle for everybody, but the new perk actually, I think, brings some potential to it. Now, last time we had Reservoir Burst, kind of cool. When the battery is full, your next burst deals additional damage and causes enemies to explode on death. Not too shabby. Now, if you get something like Overflow or Envious Assassin, I think pretty much all of the over-the-top rounds will actually do Reservoir Burst, which is cool. We know that one from the raid, which is kind of nice. But this in and of itself isn't that amazing, per se, because it's a high-impact fusion rifle. Slow firing, high damage, this weapon is more accurate when stationary, moving slowly, and aiming down sights. Now, you've got near 100 impact, depending on your mods and perks and stuff of that nature. Depending on if you get something like charge time, could be a little slower. But the idea here is it is a high impact. A lot of people, when they go for DPS, they're going to be going for something a little bit slower. Same thing, Midas Reckoning, same principle. Something like Riptide, something like Null Composure, Cartesian Coordinate, all of these are fast weapons. Rapid fire, deeper ammo reserves, slightly faster reload when the magazine is completely empty. Your goal is to dump the clip and then reload. Like Riptide, Chill Clip, that's a different purpose. But like Cartesian Coordinate, it's literally made to dump the entire clip and then reload. That's what it's for. So this one is going to be a little bit different, and I think it's probably going to take a little time to settle, but I still wanted to bring it to your attention because of the potential. Now, let me switch over to a website you guys can see what I'm talking about. Now, this is d2foundry.gg. If you guys have not been here before, it's actually a pretty legit website. One of the two new ones that we've actually got. Light.gg is the other one. Still pretty good. You're going to have some ads on it, but, you know, it's actually been around for a very long time. Very popular weapon. Very, very cool. You'll see popular trait combos down here. It's a good one to check out. I think some of the stats and just the general use, it's probably more popular. But just for a cleaner look for the video, I kind of want to switch over to this one. Both websites work. Light.gg, d2foundry.gg, check them out. But the main reason I'm making this entire video is one perk, and it's this one. It's called Controlled Burst. Landing every shot in a burst grants this weapon increased damage and reduced charge time for a short duration. Now, the increased damage of 20% on a high impact fusion rifle is going to make this thing hit pretty hard. 20% is usually like a damage buff that you're going to get out of something else. So it's not to be like slouched at. And then if for some reason you can get like arc weapon surges going on, you can probably put out some good damage. It also decreases the charge time by 10%. So if you're sitting there and you're working on something like 960 for a base charge time, and then you do 10%, you're going to be at 864. And if you compare that to like your middle of the road, like main ingredient, which is your precision frame, you're only at 780. So you're not actually that far. You're 80 away from this one. Then if we go back to Loaded Question, sorry, we go back, we'll mess with the adept. It's not going to matter. If you go back to Loaded Question and you go, okay, so you've got the 10% already procced. Depending on what perks you get, you could have some fun. If you got Masterwork charge time, now you're down to 920. You do lose a little bit of impact, which, you know, you're going to have to kind of go give and take a little bit there. But now your charge time's even closer because you take 920 and then you multiply that by 10%. You're down to 828. So now we're really flirting with the precision frame for speed. Still not going to be like the Riptide, but we're, again, still talking some big chunky damage. Now, those are kind of the things, depending on if you get, say, like accelerated coils, that's going to be 40 milliseconds slower. So now you're down to like 880, which is definitely going to be noticeable. And then if you get that one down, 880 times, you're sub 800. If you get accelerated coils and charge time, you are sub 800 for your charge time on a high impact frame. Not bad. Now, a couple stats about this one to make note of. If you get something like Ionized Battery, it does boost the magazine size, which isn't bad. But the only problem there is your reload speed literally goes down to like nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. So if you get ionized battery specifically, and even if you do get the normal battery, the reload's still pretty slow. So you're going to want something like auto-loading holster if possible. Now, depending on if you want like to dump a clip and then switch off, it could be like an alternate fire kind of DPS weapon, depending on what you're running, could be fun. Another option, depending on how it goes, you've got Overflow or Envious Assassin. Both are going to be boosting this clip up to, you know, get 12 here, Envious Assassin, 12 or... I doubt it's actually 15. It's probably closer to something like, you know, 12. I don't know if it'll actually get all the way up to 15. It would probably have to be a lot of kills, and also depending on what you do with it. Either way, picking up ammo for other weapons, getting, you know, kills with other weapons. If you can set this thing up to have a clip of, even if it's like 10, 11, 12, and you're able to just fire over and over and over and over into something chunky like a boss, your charge time is probably going to hang around that 800, 850 range, because the controlled burst will be there. Depending on what perks you have active, depending on what masterwork you have, it may be a little faster, a little slower, but you'll be hitting pretty hard too. And then the things to consider are Arrowhead Break, Chambered Compensator. Both of these are going to be good. You're going to get a nice little boost in recoil direction. If you get Arrowhead Break, it's going to be perfect. You're also going to give yourself a little bit of handling on this one. And then I would probably go, if I could, I think the recoil direction of 87 is probably good enough. And then this one's actually going to give you 10 stability, making the grouping a little better to manage. Now, if you get a Masterwork of stability, that's probably going to be a little excessive. Depends on what your feel for the weapon is. A lot of weapons, just like normal bullet weapons, I would go a small bore. Range and stability is always nice. But honestly, on this one, you want every shot to be controllable. That's why this is important. So Arrowhead Break or Chambered Compensator, both going to be pretty good here. I think a lot of people are probably going to go something along these lines. Extended mag or ionized battery, auto-loading holster, and controlled burst. Because fire the first one, land them all, then you're going to get the bonus to damage, the decreased charge time, empty the clip, and then put it away. And then go back to whatever you were doing. It's not a bad option, honestly. High impact frame, fire faster. But again, if you get something instead of like this, but the clip's not that big, but you say you get accelerated coils, but you get overflow, that's not bad either. And then depending on what mod you put on there, you could go, you know, backup mag, give it a little bit more. And again, you can mess around with those kind of mods, but it is just one of those. If you get something like liquid coils, it's going to take like a year to fire, which is going to be a little funny, but it is still going to be an interesting one to mess around with. It's mostly just the idea of, we've got an exotic, if we go back to Destiny here, in Merciless. And it's a decent weapon that I wish was better, but it's always like, do I really want it to take up my exotic slot? Not so much. I haven't talked about this previously in my all exotic ranking video. If you guys want to check that one out, click up on the screen right now. Because hits with projectiles decrease this weapon's charge time for a short duration. And it actually will stack and go faster and faster up to a point. Like, it gets to a point where it doesn't stack. But reloading immediately after kill, you know, increases weapon damage for a short time. That doesn't last that long, so it just kind of depends on what you're doing. But the idea here is this is a decent little weapon. It just is still kind of like middle of the meta, not the greatest, because it is exotic. It takes away a lot of other options. If you now have a fusion rifle that does something very similar, and it still hits pretty hard, and you're able to, you know, have a little more flexibility with the weapon, with your perks and stuff that you can mess around with, it actually could be pretty solid. So my recommendation, this is one of those times, the GM is not that bad. Fallen Saber with a group is very manageable. So you can go find an LFG group worth spending some time. And then if you can run it enough times or get enough Nightfall Engrams, you can actually buy one of those or a couple. Try and see if you can get yourself a loaded question that has the controlled burst on it. And if you can do that, it actually might be worth your time this week. Now, I know not everybody's going to find this worthwhile, but I still wanted to bring it to your attention because new perks and new weapon kind of perk combinations that we've got, they're definitely things to consider. And it could be one of those where, you know, Bungie's like, well, it's a cool perk. We like it, but we want to make it a little stronger. And if you've got it, now instead of it being 20%, now it's 30%. Or the charge time is now 15%. Like, if they don't think it brings it around enough and they boost it later on, this is one of those like kind of perk combinations that might be a little copium depending on what you're feeling, but also might be one of those that gets buffed later on depending on if they think it's not strong enough when we get it first. Either way, I just wanted to bring it to your guys' attention. So if you do find this video helpful, drop a like below, share it with friends. Running a Grandmaster in a group definitely could be something worth doing, though, for this. I recommend it. And if nothing else, if you want to spend some time in the hero list, you'll probably get a chance at 1 or 2, get some Nightfall Engrams, and then maybe buy some. Once you get 1, you'll be able to buy a couple more from Zavala with your Engrams, and maybe you'll get something good there. So if you guys did enjoy this one, leave a comment, say hello. If you guys are new to the channel and you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button, hit the alert bell, find me on Twitch or Twitter at Ebontis. I'll see you guys soon. Have a good one.